So my friends, welcome to a new crypto update video. Yes, back after 4 days, but if you take a closer look at the charts, not much has really happened, one might say. Since last Tuesday, April 22nd, we have seen hardly any movement here. Rather, we are in a range between 91,700 US dollars and just under 95,800 US dollars. But otherwise, very, very little has happened. Nevertheless, there are still a few things coming up this week. We will definitely take a look ahead, especially tomorrow, at what news is coming up that could be interesting. And of course, we will also look at the altcoins, the stocks, and yes, definitely at the traditional markets. So definitely stay tuned until the end. Before we start, feel free to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course, feel free to join the free Telegram talk and signal group. If you're interested in updates, news, and signals, feel free to join. You can also find links to this below in the video description. And if you're still looking for an exchange where you can trade everything we discuss here, there are currently up to 11,500 USDT in bonuses to grab with my partner BingX. You can also find the link for this below in the video description or in the comment section. Additionally, you support the channel by doing so. Yes, as mentioned, Bitcoin at 94,200 US dollars. It has become very, very quiet, to be honest. There's very, very little happening in terms of volume, and not much else is expected at the moment either. It's just very, very quiet. Nothing has really happened for 4 days. As mentioned, volume spikes occur from time to time. The RSI is cooling down a bit. That might be a small advantage. Still, we have the divergence that is building up here. We are still looking at the whole situation here on the daily time frame as well. Here too, the RSI has already reached the overbought area, but after last week's rise, that's not really well surprising. An interesting look at the weekly time frame, just briefly before we dive into the smaller analyses. We have a huge weekly candle that goes up to about 85,000 US dollars, 85,000 US dollars. You know, there was also something on the smaller time frames, namely a vector candle or several vector candles. From a weekly perspective, we don't have these. But now, in effect, if we take a look with the close of last week at 95,700 US dollars, we've almost completed this route from the week of February 24th here. So an interesting aspect upwards is that quite a lot has already been fished out. If we go back to the smaller time frames up to the divergence, as mentioned, very, very little has happened here. And you know, we just had the range of 84 to 85,000 US dollars. This would be this area around the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement level or down to the golden pocket. So nothing has really changed in this analysis from last week. However, if we look at the heat map, quite a bit has changed. We have a lot of liquidity to pick up also in both directions. On one hand, upwards to 98,000, then also at 96,000, but downwards it's just as intense, I would say, and it continues on and on like this. Even when we look at the 3-day time frame, it repeats quite a lot when we have 95,000 US dollars, and then it continues further downwards, just like last week. So, as I said, it's very, very quiet, which surprises me about, but I already hinted at the beginning of the video that perhaps they're just waiting for tomorrow, because tomorrow in the USA. At 2:30 p.m. we have the PCE core rate, we have employment benefits, we have, where do we have it? Gross domestic product, which is also coming tomorrow, which is of course very, very interesting for the economy and also for Poland and potential interest rate cuts. So tomorrow I think we can definitely expect significantly more movement. Otherwise, I will stick to my plan. I would prefer to continue to gather liquidity down here first before we possibly either continue the bull run or it completely crashes down to 70,000 US dollars. I am still convinced of that. As I said, upwards, the liquidity, which can be seen here on the heat map up to about 98,000 US dollars, is exactly this zone up here before a possible, well, change. If we get over that, then in my opinion, everything is the open. And that's all on the topic of Bitcoin. It was quite a lot in the short 4 minutes, but still, it's just too quiet. Strangely, also with the altcoins, because you know the saying, usually when Bitcoin consolidates after such an upward movement, altcoins go to the moon and so on. Ethereum is not really the case here. We still have the potential for about 8% upwards, on one hand to recover these vector candles, on the other hand because we still have an inefficiency here. So there could be a bit more movement coming in. At the moment it doesn't look like it here either, as the impulses are simply still missing. We are also forming here, and then my favorite saying comes into play again, a new range that is currently forming here, just like with Bitcoin, and probably also with the other altcoins at the moment. So impulses are being awaited, yet the same risk is present here as we have with Bitcoin. We have many vector candles pointing downward, also with Ethereum, the first one down to around 1,630. Yes, and then we would be back at 1,300 US dollars, which I would see as the next more significant support. So there is also the danger and risk here of it falling significantly lower again, especially because all our indicators are currently very, very overheated. Solana, yes, has broken through the red box upwards, but is still quite far from our overarching target up here of 164 to approximately 184. So here too, I would simply stay out of it for now. There is far, far too little happening. Therefore, wait and see if we might possibly take this path here, and then go down again towards 122 US dollars. Here, for the sake of completeness, just as we did with Bitcoin, we also draw the Fib levels, and we see the 0.5, or golden pocket at 116 to 126. These are the points I would like to reach. Let's move over to the traditional markets. What has happened there? Gold. Doesn't look too bad at all. So at least we are moving in the right direction. Last week, in the last update, I mentioned that it might be a chance to short if we come back into the golden pocket down here. But that didn't happen anymore. That means the momentum was simply missing here to take the thing downwards. So still on the sidelines here. For those who went short, okay, congratulations. I didn't dare because the risk was simply too high for me. But we are moving in the right direction. It's quite possible that we are now slowly moving into the area of 3,200 US dollars or 3,160 US dollars, where our target is down here. This red box has been set for a week now. And what also comes into play is the 200 SMA, which is this purple line that we have here to secure the trend support, plus also down here again. It could very well be that it moves in here in the next few hours or in the next 1 or 2 days, and we then ultimately get our long order again. For everyone who still has a long order open or a remainder of it, you can simply double it again or open new positions. And that's good. At least that's the plan for now. Let's move over to the other markets. The DAX has now reached our target. But as I said, I would wait a bit to see what the US indices do today. So we have actually completely reached the target up here. I mentioned that it would even be better in EU if we overshoot a bit, because the values currently represented in the DAX and this outflow from US stocks have led to the DAX shooting a bit higher. This has now effectively happened. I might wait for the rest of the day, but for me, a possible short movement or short position is definitely in planning to take advantage of this movement back to maybe 19,500 points. S&P 500, yes, it's on the move. Same scenario. With the Dow Jones, although the Dow Jones has a bit more to do. And last but not least, let's do that one is also moving slowly. But everything is still quite calm. Tomorrow could effectively be the starting signal for that, should the GDP fall significantly. So we will definitely keep an eye on that. There could now be really, really good opportunities that are suitable for longer-term short positions. And before I forget again, euro against US dollar. The short position continues to be very, very calm here as well. My hope right now, even though I haven't been watching it closely for long, is that we form an inverse head and shoulders. A normal head and shoulders chart pattern here. And then crash down briefly, possibly aligning with tomorrow's data from the USA. It will simply be interesting to watch. This decline is slowly happening again, which means for the euro as well that we are trading more in US stocks again, or that the DXY is recovering. This is of course good for the traditional markets as well. However, if this process continues and the euro keeps pumping, possibly even reaching the range of 120, 125, it will be very bleak weeks and months, especially for US shareholders. Otherwise, that's it from my side. I wish you all a nice, pleasant day or a good start to the day. We'll definitely catch up later for the altcoin update video as always. And otherwise, have a nice day. Take care of yourselves. Leave a like, subscribe, join the Telegram group. Until then, bye-bye. And as always, stay cool, stay rich.